Here we go. Welcome into the 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Coming up, a Niners training camp preview. We're going to take a look at the top position and roster battles for San Francisco going into training camp, which does begin on Tuesday. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button here for daily Niners coverage. And if you're new to the show, I try to check off all of these boxes anytime I'm talking Niners for a video. I want all of our content to be informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking. I want you to have a voice. Those are really the foundational elements of this channel. That's why we're north of 163,000 subscribers. So hit that sub button, lock us in, and as you can see, we're 595 people away from reaching a new milestone of 164,000 subscribers. Cannot wait for the return of Niners football. It's getting closer and closer to being here. And without further ado, let's take a look at the biggest position battles at Niners training camp. There is a renewed sense of energy. There's a lot of positivity. The good vibes are back for San Francisco. And I think 2025 goes a lot better than 2024's 6-11 season. Let's begin on offense. Left guard is a position that is a big question mark as far as this starting lineup. We know that Trent Williams will be at left tackle, Jake Brendel at center, Dominic Pooney, the rising star at right guard, and Colton McKivitz at right tackle. But we're not sure come week one when the Niners hit the road to play in a fierce divisional matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, who will be in between Trent Williams and Jake Brendel. Will it be Ben Bartch, who in 2 games last year played pretty well in replacing Aaron Banks? But then he got hurt. And that has really been the story throughout Ben Bartch's career. He will also start training camp on the non-football injury list because he got hurt again. Nick Sickell is in the running for that competition. I like Connor Colby, the rookie 7th-round pick out of Iowa. Iowa does a lot of the same things from a run game standpoint that Kyle Shanahan does with the outside zone. Connor Colby is a player who started more than 50 games in his college career. He's 6'5", has a lot of the traits that the Niners like in offensive linemen. His relative athletic score in the pre-draft closed in on 10. And he has that nasty streak to his game. So Ben Bartch, Nick Sickell, Connor Colby, maybe Spencer Burford, all in the mix there at that starting left guard spot. Number 2, the wide receiver situation as a whole. Here on Monday, the Niners worked out a bevy of wide receivers. They clearly have some concerns at that position going into camp. And there are a lot of question marks at this position. Brandon Ayuk coming off the torn ACL and MCL. Will he be ready for week 1? He's ahead of schedule. Or will he start the year on PUP? Ricky Pearsall will start training camp on PUP. That was the big report and the news that the Niners put out there late last week. Now, preseason training camp PUP is different than regular season PUP, the physically unable to perform list. Ricky Pearsall could come off of it at any time, but that's a second hamstring issue in as many years on top of the shoulder issue that he had last year. Juwan Jennings is a player who told the Niners, I either want a new contract or you can trade me. Demarcus Robinson is an excellent number 3 or number 4, but will he get suspended because of the DUI arrest? Jordan Watkins, a 4th-round pick out of Ole Miss, 4.3 speed. He could track the ball well. One of the most explosive wide receivers in college football last year. But Kyle Shanahan, always hard on rookie receivers. He balled out in the spring. Does he hit a rookie wall in training camp and in the preseason? Jacob Cowing was the star of the spring, but he's a little tinier. 4.4 speed, that's the plus. Was he just a springtime darling, or can he really jump out and make a big leap in year 2? You have Isaiah Nair, who's 6'4", 220. He runs 4.4 flat. Physically, he's a freak. But in his college career, there wasn't a lot of production there. He rarely hit double-digit catches. You have veterans like Isaiah Hodgins and Russell Gage, plus another receiver who San Francisco could very well sign going into camp. The wide receiver situation as a whole, not in an ideal spot for quarterback Brock Purdy as he just signed that big contract extension. Tight end 3, another position in a roster battle for San Francisco. George Kittle got that bag this offseason, highest paid tight end in football. The Niners signed Luke Farrell, a really good blocker for Jacksonville, one of the top blocking tight ends in all of football. I think the Niners in 2025 will run 2 tight end sets more often, a lot more 12 personnel. I think with the trade of Debo and the addition of Luke Farrell, we're going to see George Kittle get freed up as a pass catcher more. But at tight end 3, will it be Ross Dwelly, who comes back to the Niners? Will it be Mason Pline? Will it be Jake Tonches? Will the Niners only go with 2 tight ends on the 53? And then the non-Christian McCaffrey carries, something else that I'm going to be watching throughout training camp and in the preseason with the injury issues to Christian McCaffrey, but also some of the talent at the running back spot outside of McCaffrey. Isaac Guerendo, he's 220 pounds, and in the pre-draft going into the 2024 draft, ran a 4.3. He can run in between the tackles. He can get out to the perimeter. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. You drafted Jordan James in the 5th round out of Oregon. That was one of the deepest running back classes in the history of the draft. If it was another year, he could have been a 3rd-round pick. And he's a really talented player, as I'm about to discuss. You, of course, are going to give carries from time to time to Kyle Juszczyk, Corey Kiner, the UDFA out of Cincinnati. He has LSU pedigree. That's where he started his college career. And analytically, statistics-wise, eye test-wise, he was one of the top, most productive running backs in college football last year. If it weren't for that aforementioned deep running back class, he could have been drafted in the late rounds. Izzy Abanikanda, he was an explosive player at Pitt. Hasn't worked out for him in his NFL career, but in this Kyle Shanahan outside zone scheme, he could find success. You have Patrick Taylor, who I think is more of a special teams guy, but he's 6'2", and gives you an interesting physical element to the running back position. On Friday, I was with my guy, Larry Kruger. I hopped on KNBR. I talked about the Niners running back situation, how I want to see Kyle Shanahan adapt, evolve, get creative with this offense, and what I would do in divvying up the carries. Here's a clip from my hit on KNBR from Friday.
This is what I would do at the running back position for the Niners in 2025. Christian McCaffrey just turned 29 years old in June, and he's coming off a year in which he only played 4 games, did not score a touchdown, and had bilateral Achilles tendonitis and then the knee injury. We know how running backs can seemingly age overnight and lose it. And McCaffrey has missed 10 or more games in 3 of the last 5 years. He's missed a lot of time. And so there's a chance that he's not the same player this year. Let's see early in the year. Let's split the carries up a little bit. Give McCaffrey 15 to 20 carries per game. I also want to see Kyle Shanahan adapt, evolve, and come up with creative types of formations and plays. And so you split back a little bit with McCaffrey and Isaac Guerendo. Utilize Kyle Juszczyk from time to time. I want to sell this to Christian McCaffrey. You're an excellent route runner and receiver. Let's flex you out wide. Let's put you in the slot. Let's throw some screen passes. Let's use him as a decoy in the backfield where he sprints out of the backfield. Then you either run a passing play to a different direction or you have misdirection out of the backfield. Get creative, Kyle Shanahan. It's time for us to see some new wrinkles within this offense. And then speaking of McCaffrey's workload, Isaac Guerendo is such a unique and dynamic player. At 220 pounds, he's a 4.3 guy with physicality, with the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield on screen passes. Kyle Shanahan doesn't throw enough screen passes. Guerendo is capable there, but he's a home run threat every time he gets his hands on the ball. And so I want to see him getting at least 10 carries per game. 10 to 15 is probably the range. And then if you need to spell a Guerendo or a Christian McCaffrey, that's when you implement the rookie 5th-round pick Jordan James, who has really good contact balance, who did not have a fumble at all throughout his entire college career in Oregon. He can pick up yards after contact. That's an area where the Niners really struggled last year. And so I think that you can really survive by giving carries to those 3 backs. Kyle Juszczyk is your fullback. And if you want to carry another running back, it can be Patrick Taylor. But to me, he's really just a special teams player.
So some additional thoughts on the running back position there. Always great chopping it up, talking Niners with Krug and hopping on the sports leader, KNBR, one of the biggest and best radio stations in the country. With that, drop your take. Which Niners position battle will be the most intense in the lead up to the start of the 2025 season? Join the conversation, as always, down in the comment section. We'll get to the defense here coming up around the corner. First, I have to pause and tell you about this deal. Thanks to our fine friends at Fanatics, this Niners cutoff hoodie, which you can wear any time of the year, was $55. It's now on sale for just $33. Use that link down below, chatsports.com/49ers cutoff. It'll take you to Fanatics. Fanatics will know that I sent you. Hop on that deal while it lasts. Only a few hoodies left. To the defensive side of the ball, under new defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. Isn't that fun? Robert Saleh back with San Francisco. Can't wait to see that bald head at Niners training camp. The defensive tackle spots. Yes, multiple defensive tackle positions are up for grabs. You have C.J. West, Alfred Collins, Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens, Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, Sebastian Valdez, all fighting for the right to start for San Francisco. And really, a quarter of this defensive line is set as far as the starting lineup. You know that Nick Bosa is going to start at defensive end. Will 3 rookies claim those roles? The second-rounder Collins, the fourth-rounder C.J. West, and, of course, at the other defensive end spot, Mykel Williams, the first-rounder, 11th overall pick. Jordan Elliott, run-stopping player. Kevin Givens, more of a pass rusher. Kalia Davis, never healthy, but a really good athlete. Evan Anderson, I thought last year as a UDFA, played a really good football. A name to watch is Sebastian Valdez, a UDFA out of Washington who's quick, he's powerful, and throughout the spring, he was really impressive. I have no idea how the DT spots are going to go throughout training camp, and that's why it makes for a very fascinating training camp battle. Ideally, it's the rookies, C.J. West and Alfred Collins, who get those roles. Both of those players, really good athletes, really good at stopping the run. They're different players as far as their athletic profiles. C.J. West is shorter, but has such strong hands. He's really explosive. Alfred Collins is 6'5", 330, and a mountain of a man. But those rookies are going to be duking it out with some of those other veterans here very, very soon. And then it's edge opposite of Nick Bosa. Will it be Mykel Williams? Will it be Bryce Huff? Mykel Williams, I think, is an every down player who is NFL-ready size right now, who was a terrific player at Georgia, who as a freshman started on a loaded defense with multiple high-level NFL players and was a freshman when he started on that defense. I mean, ridiculous that he was able to start given how great that Georgia team was. He's excellent at stopping the run. He's going to be able to set the edge. He's going to be able to help right away this porous Niners rushing defense that clearly the Niners put an emphasis on improving this offseason. He has to get better as a pass rusher, but in this wide 9, I think that he can use that power, and if he works on refining some of his pass rush moves and he has more of a plan, he could be a stud at that defensive end spot. Can he beat out Bryce Huff, who had 10 sacks and 67 pressures under Robert Saleh 2 years ago? I think Huff, because he's a little bit smaller, more of a tweener, is better used in that NASCAR package in obvious pass rush situations as that speed component opposite of Bosa. I think Mykel Williams is the better, more well-rounded player, but obviously Huff has him in the experience department. Can't wait to see how that plays out throughout training camp. And then there's linebacker 2 and linebacker 3. We know that Fred Warner will be the man in the middle. And in today's NFL, sometimes you only need 2 off-ball linebackers. But when the Niners go 4-3, who starts at weak side? Who starts at strong side? It's going to be Nick Martin and D. Winters, the 2 players vying for those roles. And then whichever player doesn't get that strong side backer role, I think they land at weak side. D. Winters plays like his hair is on fire. Incredible speed, a lot of energy, a lot of passion with the way that he plays. Nick Martin plays the game a very similar way. Shades of Azeez Al-Shire and Dre Greenlaw. The Niners clearly missed those types of presences last year. Nick Martin, excellent against the run, a TFL machine. He can break up passes. Sometimes he gets lost in coverage, but he's a really instinctual player who's a little bit smaller, but he can really run. And 2 years ago, prior to him getting hurt last year, one of the most productive linebackers in football. Now, Luke Gifford, more of a special teamer. I don't think that he's going to be vying for a starting role. Tatum Bethune is an interesting player. I don't think he's fast enough to be weak side or strong side. But as the linebacker who could back up Fred Warner and be that Mike, I think that suits him very well because he's a very smart and savvy player. You have Chaz Surratt, who I think is more of a special teams guy. Really, I think it's a two-horse race between D. Winters and Nick Martin to be the top LB2 behind Fred Warner. Whoever doesn't get LB2, they become LB3. Slot corner. This really depends on what the Niners do with Diamador Lenore. Does Diamador Lenore stay on the inside where he is one of the top slot corners in the game? Does he move outside where he still has Pro Bowl type of talent, but is probably better and more elite on the inside? I think best case scenario, you have Renardo Green, who in 7 starts last year played very well as a former second-round pick on one outside. And then you have Diamador Lenore at the other perimeter corner spot. Then you have Upton Stout, who you drafted in the 3rd round out of Western Kentucky in the slot. 4.4 speed, very physical. He will fight you with his hands. He is not afraid to play against the run either. He provides you a sticky coverage because he is so fast. He's also very strong. Led all DBs in the bench press in the pre-draft process. He's going to be competing with Trey Brown, who doesn't have slot experience, but can play inside, outside, and just because of the experience factor, if Upton Stout falters, Trey Brown could start there. So Stout against Brown, depending on what the Niners do with Lenore, that right there, another good training camp battle. And then lastly on the defense, it's safety. This is in large part due to Malik Mustafa's ACL surgery. He had that ACL injury in the regular season finale, got operated on right after the year. He's a candidate to start the year on PUP. And so what did the Niners do in free agency? Sign Jason Pinnock. Sign Richie Grant. They just let go of George Odom. That was breaking news over the weekend. He had to get elbow surgery. He's going to be out for a few months. He was a special teams ace for San Francisco. He wasn't going to be a starter, but he was getting paid a lot of money as a special teamer on this club. So he's no longer in the equation. Mustafa, I don't think, is going to be ready week 1. So I think the starters, Jason Pinnock, Jair Brown. But Richie Grant has an opportunity to start there in place of Pinnock. Marquis Siegel got drafted by the Niners out of Kansas State. He can run 4.3, and he has nickel experience as well. And then lastly, Jake Moody. He is in a kicking competition throughout training camp and in the preseason. Jake Moody is a good training camp kicker. When there's no pressure, you see the leg. The ball booms off of his foot. But then when the games get underway, that's when he really starts to crack. This has to be a legitimate competition. Jake Moody has to get pushed because he can't cost the Niners multiple games like he did last year. So does he win the kicking battle? Does Greg Joseph? Does another kicker get brought in to push Moody as well? And is he the kicker in week 1? We will certainly see, and time will tell. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here. Hopefully you enjoyed our Niners training camp preview, looking at the top positional and roster battles right here on the show.